I get up, time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go.
Oh, that was somewhat abrupt transfer over. Fantastic. Well, good evening, junior scientists, and citizens of this great big weird, wild, and wonderful world in which we live. As always, I'm your humble science communicator, the great Orbax, broadcasting here from Physics Hollywood in the abandoned McNaughton building at the University of Guelph. And I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to our final Guelph Physics live stream of the semester, I guess, of the academic school year. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Whether you're a junior scientist that's joining us through the Orbax Pepper Do Science page, and this is your spring break, or whether you're one of our undergraduate students here at the University of Guelph, and this is your break before you go into final exams for the winter semester, or whether you're someone who enjoys our streams, I think it's safe to say that we could all use a little bit of a stress break these days. And so we've got exactly that planned for this evening. We've got a fun night to chat about science, about Guinness World Records, and we're joined by some incredible people that we're very, very lucky to have this evening. So I'm pretty excited. So we might as well just get right into it. As always, we're hosting a live chat that's running on Facebook and on YouTube right now. So if you have any questions or you want to ask anything of our guests, then feel free to just message them in the chat. But for now, I want to bring on, oh, geez, it's already happening. This is amazing over here. Hold on, I got to find my cursor. Hello. Somebody said hi. Well, hi back. That's right. That's the scintillating kind of conversation that we're going to be having here tonight. But fantastic. But for now, I want to bring in our first guest this evening is my brother and my best friend. Also, my lab assistant for Orbax and Pepper Do Science, our internationally traveling children's science show. Let's introduce the one, the only Sweet Pepper Klopek.
Well, hi, everybody. How are you? Hi, Orbax.
Hello. How are you doing tonight, Pepper?
It's nice to see you. I'm fantastic.
Nice to see you as well. I see you've got some kind of, if I'm not wrong, it's some kind of medallion there.
It's so shiny, eh?
It really is. Why don't you hand that over to me? Oh, look at that. Yeah, it is nice. It does look like a pretty nice medal when you take a look at it.
There's science for you.
That's some science. Explain that. It must have been a localized wormhole. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may probably know, Pepper and I have been doing our science show now for, I guess, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years. And been traveling as a duo prior to that for almost 20 years now. We've been lucky enough to get to an opportunity to attempt 26 Guinness World Records and to break all of them. And you saw that earlier was a record that we actually did here at the University of Guelph campus as part of the Science Olympics for 2019. It was the largest elephant's toothpaste fountain, and we did that in conjunction with the University of Guelph Physics and Astronomy Club. And it was actually a record that started this whole kind of internet phenomena of people on YouTube setting off giant elephant's toothpaste in their very expensive condos, which
yes, destroying their homes.
I cannot even imagine what the cleanup would be. So Pepper,
yes.
I've got a question for you. We try to chat a little bit with our guests when we bring them in. And I wanted to ask you, what's the one thing that excites you most about the field of science?
Maybe it's the uncertainty of it all that makes me excited, especially when we try experiments and that it's like, are we going to get an explosion? Is it going to do, what's it going to do? And that the unknown for me is really sort of jazzes me up, and it's going to be different every time. But that for me is just such a fascinating thing, because it could be fantastic. It could be disastrous. It could be embarrassing. And it's just that there's such a level of uncertainty. It really makes me excited to get out there and do it. It's just
well, I think that's an interesting thing, because one of the things that happens, especially if you're a young person who's starting, a very young person who's interested in becoming a scientist, or you're going through university now and you're interested in doing a career in science, the one constant that's always there in science is the possibility of failure, right? You're always setting yourself up to try something, in many cases, to try something completely brand new and to see what comes of it. And I think there's two ways maybe to look at that potential for failure. One of them is to fear it. And another one is just what you're saying there, is to embrace it. Find the excitement in it and use that to power you through.
Indeed, because it always pushes you. It's like, well, next time, it's like you got to tweak a little something, right? And then try it again and again and again till you get the result you want. Or you just have 15 disastrous results. But either way, you're still doing it. And it's always fun. And it's a hands-on learning. And that's what I really, the end product is just the best.
Yeah. As somebody who's stood beside you for many a liquid nitrogen rocket explosion, we've experienced that one or two times. Let's speak a little bit to this idea of that elephant's toothpaste experiment. I think that was a pretty interesting thing, because we didn't necessarily we'd never tried it on that scale before.
Well, how do you, right?
It's that day, yeah. And
that's a do or die. There's no, you can practice, you can have a beaker, a little but that big of a scale, it's just kind of a one and done. You just got to hope your calculations are right, throw caution to the wind and high five and hope for the best.
Well, we got a comment here from Trevor Zebarth, says, "Hey boys, it's
hi Trevor.
Trevor, hope you're doing well." Yeah, that was a really interesting one to me, because we had done very small scale versions of that. And the fact that it just geometrically, we were able to expand that and have it work was pretty incredible. You know what? I wasn't going to do this yet, but I think we might as well bring in our roving reporter, Mel,
nice.
our voice on the street, because she was actually there that day when we set that record. Mel, you were part of that Guinness World Record. I know, and truly the most exciting part was the fact that you were muted.
Hello.
How are you doing, Mel?
I'm good. Yeah, I have a little Guinness World Record participant thingamabobber that I have framed, and I always show it off. I just say that I did it, so.
That's fine.
You did do it.
What was your takeaway from that day? How are you feeling the day that we did that? I think, Saksham, if you can bring up some photos, I think we got some pictures of, Mel was in the video, and I think we have some pictures from the day of as well.
Yeah, that's my back.
There's your back. There we're all standing there, and that's the group of about 200 people, science teachers and educators who were there for the Science Olympics. How did you feel about it that day?
Honestly, that was the most exciting thing that I've done in my undergrad, I think. Like, it was awesome. It was
better than a Diffie Q final exam.
Oh, that's tough. I don't know that. No, super exciting. I don't think a lot of people get the opportunity to witness a world record happen, which is why I think today is so cool. But yeah, no, it was super exciting. And I did a lot of those like little experiments with you as well. And they were always so fun, and I never knew if we would be able to do it. Like, it was very nerve-wracking that day, especially when like you guys poured in the chemicals. I was just kind of like, but it was awesome.
Yeah, it was a pretty exciting day. Saksham, why don't you show the overhead view, the drone shot?
That's a good one.
We were lucky enough that the geography department here at the University of Guelph was able to borrow one of their drones, and you really see how quickly that reaction takes place. I know you've seen that a lot in these YouTube videos that have been occurring, that were really sort of started the big internet fad of this, but it's really fast, like to the point where I legitimately, when I jumped out of that box and turned around, I missed kind of the whole beginning of that reaction taking place. And it's only through watching it in video that I've been able to kind of relive it. Pepper, how was your jump over the railing that day to get out of that box?
It was really scary because I was, again, like you, I didn't know how fast this reaction was going to be. And I have a very bad back. And I pictured me trying to get over the barrier and just falling down and just getting like the blob coming over me and just burning all my flesh off, and it'd just be a skeleton laying there.
Saxon, let's show the side view too for shot while we continue to speak about that.
Here we go.
You can mute the volume on it. That's fine. Yeah, so this happens incredibly quickly. You can see at the beginning there, we had a very small amount of food coloring that we put in that didn't seem to really do much. And also, so what we used hydrogen peroxide that was donated by Fisher Scientific, a wonderful company there. And we used potassium iodide as our catalyst for this. Again, you can even see the steam coming off the top of it. It's an exothermic reaction. That's heat that's coming off of it. But the soapy film that you see is actually soap. It's just soap bubbles. So when the peroxide splits, it turns into OH or O2 and then H2O. So you're just getting escaping oxygen coming off of there and being captured in the soap bubbles. And so for such a scary looking reaction, it smells incredibly nice.
I was just, every time I see the video, I can smell it. It's beautiful. It takes me right back to that moment.
I think it was a pretty fun and inspiring thing for for the young people who were there, the high school students from the Science Olympics. We have a virtual Science Olympics coming up at the end of May here at the University of Guelph. So if you're a high school student who's watching right now, or later, it's the magic of the internet. You might not even be watching this as it's live. It might be in the future at some point. What's it like, future student? But take an opportunity to check that out. Okay, well, let's get rid of Mel.
Yeah, one thing about this whole record, though, we at least had it contained. So we had sort of an easy measurement to start from and then work on top of that. With these giant,
So that's a good point. So
would they ever?
To get that record, we needed to mathematically model the actual size because it's a volume record. So for the largest elephant's toothpaste, you actually are trying to create a volumetric size. Mm-hmm. We were lucky enough to have Dr. Matt Demers from the math department here do some modeling to actually give us the projected size. But that encasement that we made with the plastic filler that you saw in that video, that white sort of, for lack of a better term, that giant litter box, that was the minimum volume to fill that we required to break that record. And I think we actually tripled the record on that day. Mm-hmm. So you're right. It is interesting. I don't quite know how some of these big YouTubers were able to actually measure.
Yeah, how would you calculate that? It's just...
There was one that we saw that was in a private swimming pool. And so that makes sense, right? You can measure the volume of a pool. But these ones on people's...
Just in a driveway.
Yeah.
Like...
It seems out of control. Well, that's actually that's a good question. And I think, man, the segues on this thing can be just a beautiful thing. I think that we have a guest here tonight.
What?
Yeah, that's right. I think we have a guest tonight that can actually speak a little bit to the logistics of how you measure and validate a Guinness World Record.
Who's that going to be, though?
Oh, well, you know what? It almost wasn't anybody, but I see somebody in front of the stream. We're lucky enough tonight to have a good friend of ours who we've known now for, I guess 8 or 9 years, almost a decade. A wonderful individual who's responsible for some of the great books that you might have in your library at home. I know we've got a ton of them. He's the editor-in-chief of Guinness World Records. Let's bring in Craig Glenday.
Hello.
Hey. Hi, Craig.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Great. How are you now, Craig? You're what I guess the British call across the pond. Is that true?
Yes. It's now just gone midnight here. So
you're over in London, England right now.
I'm in London. Yes, in sort of by London Bridge area. Very nice.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's
thanks for staying up.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I've stayed sober and everything. It's
fantastic. Well, so part of your job at Guinness World Records is not only putting together the book, but you've been involved in adjudicating records, which is basically the fancy word for figuring out whether or not that somebody's achieved a record. You're also responsible for coming up with records. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the process that Guinness World Records has for proving that a record is actually a record and that it's not just being falsified for somebody, and that it's also something that people can do across the world?
Yeah, so we get now about 1,000 applications a week. At the minute, maybe with COVID, we're down to about, very good. And these are really, you'll break your teeth. We're getting about 100 a week maybe at the minute. So we can't really send people to every possible adjudication because that you just need a staff of thousands. And also about 95% of what we get doesn't turn into records. So it is difficult to not only to attempt the record, but then to tell us and prove to us that you've done it. As you will know, we do make it really, really difficult because we just want to make sure that it's true.
Well, I mean, these records should stand for something, right? They are, they're Guinness World Records. I don't think there's any of us who haven't grown up without at least looking through one of those books in the library or not having it under the Christmas tree once a year. So, I mean, it's a legacy that, you're putting out there. Oh, that's the new one. Oh, speaking of under the Christmas tree.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we're still here after 65 years now we've been doing this. Because I can tell you for sure that the world's tallest man is 8'3" because I was there. I had my tape measurement and I measured him, so I know for sure he is. If you want to ask the internet, you'll get 100 different answers for 100 different ways of putting the same question out there. You might as well just fling a window open and shout into the street. Anyone know how tall the tallest guy is? But I can measure them, and I've done the measurements, and I can say he's 8'3". I haven't actually done an elephant's toothpaste record. I did have to do the largest soap bubble.
Oh, interesting.
That's also a volumetric record. And what we did for that is that once the bubble was at its maximum, it was photographed. I mean, it was filmed on 3 sides and photographed so that they could then rebuild it in a 3D modeling package.
That's basically what the toothpaste record was as well, where we had to have reference points, multiple angles, and then use the multiple angles to reconstruct a mathematical measurement of what the size actually was.
Yeah, so sometimes it's harder to prove you've done the record than it is to actually do the record.
Well, we've been breaking records now since the time that everybody in the world has gotten a very high-speed camera in their pockets. So I'll tell you for a fact, it was a much more labor-intensive thing 10 years ago when we were trying to break records, to prove them, to verify them, and to have them sent in than it is now. But even more so, do you see that the number of record applications has shot up because of this? Or do you just see that you're turning more away because maybe some of the hurdles to get there are a little bit lower than they used to be?
I think it comes in waves. So it depends. There might be fads, or a TV show might be on one day showing something. Like we got this huge influx. I remember this influx of really fat cats, like who had the fattest cat. And they were all from Russia. We didn't understand where are all these Russian fat cats coming from. One, we don't recognize it as a category anyway, because it's cruel. But the key thing was there was a TV show in Russia saying, "I've got the fattest cat," and that just meant a lot of people were weighing their cats. And of course, the danger is that if we accept that we used to in the old days, things are constantly changing. In the old days, we used to have heaviest pets, and to be fair, the videos are quite fun, I guess. If you find these things funny, there's a very fat cat trying to walk downstairs, and that was the heaviest cat. But of course, we realize people are force feeding the animals to get the record.
Yeah, see
So
that I can understand
so
those unknown difficulties. Yeah.
And then there's all sorts of records we don't recognize. So that's the joy of 65 years. We don't do things like riding around the world the fastest on a horse while dressed in armor, like chainmail armor or a full suit of armor because it's cruel on the horse.
Sure.
We don't recognize bullfighting or fox hunting. And we get so many things that come through that we just can't really. I mean, it's an amazing job to see how inventive the public is. And we've rejected some of my favorites over the years. Have included things like "Dog with the Fewest Legs" was a that came through, and it had 3 legs as well, so not even that few. Like longest drawing of an evil train. So someone had drew a really evil train, and it was just very long. We've had like the most children arrested in a classroom because the teacher threatened to call the police, and had all the kids arrested to prove a point, and they wanted a record for that. We've had teenagers doing surgery when they shouldn't be, and all this. I mean, it's just, we have to say no, but that means that what we do publish is just the very best of what's out there. So it is literally the cream of the crop.
So, well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that compliment. But so what I'm hearing is that being an adjudicator at Guinness World Records in many ways is like being a scientist. You're sifting through data, you have a goal in mind, and you're getting rid of bad information and collecting good information. You're effectively doing the job of what a university researcher would be doing.
Yeah, and I suppose over the years, we have quite a medical approach to things. I suppose as well, like a Hippocratic relationship with record holders. We've also, I think the idea of applying sets of rules to something that gets repeated and repeated is quite a scientific, that empirical idea, I guess you could say. And for us, that's the most important thing, is that it's repeatable. That's why you get guidelines. So every record that you see, you'll know the guidelines. You've had plenty in your days. That we write rules for every record to make sure that they're repeated in the same manner every time, so that you can compare the 2 attempts. I think we like to think of ourselves as scientists in that sense. Yeah. I've done a lot of adjudicating in rubber gloves.
There you go. It makes you a scientist, that's for sure.
Well, we've got a message in the chat here. People are very excited about your fish, Craig.
Yes. This is Norris. Well, actually Norris is dead now. This is Ross, the big one. And the other 4 are named after TV presenters who have presented Guinness World Records content on TV. That's
exciting.
Yeah.
Now, the follow-up question to this is that those could possibly be the cutest fish in the world. Is there a Guinness record? And how would you go about measuring how cute a fish actually can be?
Yes, there's no. This is an example of a record that gets rejected quite a lot. I have the most beautiful fill in the blank. We did very many years ago. We may have been the first to do this, I'm not sure, but we toyed with the idea of the Millie Helen. Do you know this idea? So that Helen of Troy was so beautiful that she launched 1,000 ships. That's how beautiful she was. So a Millie Helen is the beauty you need to launch 1 ship. But again, it's just quite hard to do anything with that as a measurement. So how do you judge whether are my fish beautiful enough to launch a ship? I don't know.
I'm saying they are. I called it.
Yes. So I think we have to reject a lot of things that are not measurable. So one of the key criteria for a record is that it has to be measured with a tape measure, or you weigh it, or you can count it. And we can't have 2 of these together. So you can't be the tallest, fastest man. Or we had an application for the heaviest, fastest man, who was a sumo wrestler who ran marathons. and we couldn't quite work out what the metric would be. Is it kilogram miles an hour or something? So we ended up being the heaviest person to complete a marathon because it's a fixed distance. So yes, it's we have that same with trebuchets as well. The challenge of trying to judge trebuchet records, because if you throw something that's heavy far, if you throw something that's not as heavy further, is that more impressive? So you need to come up with a kilogram meter distance metric. Complicated world.
Interesting. Craig, we like to ask our guests on our physics live stream here, usually about their interest in physics or what makes them excited. But for tonight, since our guests aren't necessarily physicists, I've extended it to science. What's the thing that excites you most about science?
It's similar to what you said earlier. I think for me, it's that there's never an end point to anything. There's always something more to come, and I've had it through work. People saying to me like, surely there are no more records to be beaten anymore. Like there's nothing left in the world to do. Why are people bothering to record records and publish books? But of course, it's that idea of standing on the shoulders of giants, and then there's something new further ahead. And I think that's a lovely idea that we'll never learn, we'll never know enough, and we'll always need to know more. And in a similar vein, I think we're record holders who, people set themselves goals to achieve, and then it's about how do you attain that goal, but also go beyond it. And so in a weird way, like I think record breaking is the most fundamental aspect of humanity, one of the most fundamental aspects, because no other creature does it. We record our progress in order to go further and go better and higher, and there's no need to climb Everest. There's nothing up there, it's just freezing cold, but we do it because the challenge is there. And I think science is a similar thing. And you get a lot of criticism when space programs are announced, and then people say, well, there's enough problems here on Earth, why we're not spending the money here. But you have to keep on pushing. So good old science, everything is science anyway, but it's just the fact that we're always finding something new. It's very exciting, I think.
Absolutely. Well, it's like
very well
said,
put.
Yeah, and everything's either science or science and stuff. That's right. And speaking of science and stuff, man, another incredible segue. Pepper.
Yes.
There's a.
We've all got.
Hey, I'll hand you the book, Craig.
That way.
I picked it up from you.
You're actually you're here for me, Pepper. You're here, Pepper, and that's your Orbax. So if I do that, that's going to Orbax.
Oh yeah. Well, you don't want to make this confusing. We have another guest who's here tonight who's actually featured in this book as well. That's right, Pepper. I know you don't believe it, but
no. Who's that going to be?
Well, this gentleman is a longtime Guinness World Records title holder. He has one of the records that I believe has made me the happiest anytime I've ever seen it. He is also joining us from England tonight. And again, thank him so much for staying up so late. He is the title holder of the world's loudest burp. Please give a nice internet round of applause to our good friend, Paul Hunn.
Hello there. And I've got one too.
To you, Paul.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's an exciting night because as we had talked about before the stream went live, we've been internet friends for quite a few years now, and this is our first opportunity to actually chat face to face. So thank you so much for joining us and being a part of our evening.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Now,
I'll just say as well, thank you, Paul, for my gift.
Oh, it's great.
You're welcome.
It's a face mask, not something else. But yeah,
fantastic. Now, so there's so many things I want to talk about here. I guess we should narrow it down. First of all, since we started with the gag of handing this book over to the person in the next, this book over to the person in the next thing.
I'll do that.
Nice. Okay, good. And
Yes.
that's a book called
Really like
Guinness World Records Science and Stuff that we had the pleasure and the opportunity to be part of, that I believe was published 2017. Is that correct, Craig?
Yeah.
Or 2018 it got published. We shot the stuff in 2017, so I think it came
Yeah,
out
2018. Actually.
2018, yeah.
And Paul, you've also been part of not only the standard Guinness World Book, but you've also got a lovely feature in here for your particular talent. He said, I suppose I can thank you very much, Craig, of having the world's loudest burp and actually talking a little bit about the science behind the world's loudest burp. So there's so much that we can talk about right now, but I'm going to actually have Saksham play a little bit of role of, I think we have our video of the science of how the burp works. Is that true, Saksham? We can hit play on that. And we can let the audio play on this one, or maybe not. I don't know if YouTube doesn't like that or not. Or maybe nothing.
This is my lab assistant.
How about that one? It should be one in the burping file. Well, that's pretty fun. So this was the Guinness World Records Science and Stuff book. That's a sound wave, but we're looking for the burping one. There we go.
Science of burping. Turns out there's quite a bit of information on this. Basically, over the course of a day, you eat a bunch of food, and that food goes into your stomach, and it breaks down into gas. The gas gets trapped inside of your stomach and has to find a way out. The way it does that is up through your throat hole. You produce 27 liters of gas over the course of a day. That's enough to fill a beach ball. Even bigger than this one. And it's got to make a way out. A burp is technically called an eruction. And as the sphincters actually loosen, that gas shoots up and out. Now there's some debate as to whether the sound has to do with the reverberation of the esophagus or just the flapping of your esophageal flap. But either way, it sure is loud. How loud? I guess we're about to see.
All right, so it's actually called an eructation. That's my fault. I'm sorry. I apologize. And that's a little bit about the science of how a burp works. It's an incredibly loud sound that comes from either the fact that your esophagus is vibrating or that the esophageal flap is vibrating. But either way, we produce so much gas that it's typically an involuntary reaction. But Paul, you've made a career for yourself out of being able to do this on command. So let's just start out at the beginning. When did you first realize you could do this incredible thing?
Well, it was something I did at school, really, and should have grown up, but never did. And then went on to the pub. And my brother was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. He heard an advert. They were trying to beat the world record that was held by an American guy at the time. And I went for it. Managed to get it, and the rest is history, as they say.
So how loud was the first burp that you did to break the record?
Right, when I first did it back in 2000, it was 118.1 decibels, but that was almost straight in to the reader. In the meantime, Guinness changed their rules and regs, and it had to be from 2.5 meters. So
okay.
That was reset.
Well, that brings up an interesting concept in terms of how we measure loudness. Loudness is measured on something called the Decibel Scale. And we do this actually if you've been a student in Physics 1070 or Physics 1130 for engineers here at the University of Guelph. I may have taught or failed you in this section of the course before, where we discuss this idea of loudness being in decibels. The idea behind loudness decibels is that it drops off compared to the distance that you are away. So something up close carries more acoustic energy in it than something far away does. The idea behind that is that the acoustic energy sort of generates away in a sphere. So I often like to talk about the idea of the Death Star exploding. When they're trying to outrun the Death Star, there's a certain amount of energy. All that energy is stretched out over the surface of that sphere. And as that sphere gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the amount of energy on the surface of it gets lower and lower, and it goes by an inverse square. So that means that as you get farther away, it doesn't just drop off linearly, it goes as the distance squared. So 118 decibels right into one of these decibel meters, right up like this is very loud. 120 decibels is as loud as a shotgun blast at zero range. So since then, you're saying that it's been moved to 2.5 meters, so about 7.5, 8 feet away.
Roughly.
Would be yeah. So
Yeah.
at that distance, you're clocking in at what, 109.9 decibels?
That's correct. Yeah.
So basically, in between a motorcycle and a lawnmower is the audible energy that's coming out of your throat. That's amazing.
Truly amazing.
It's I'm just jealous. The well, I don't know. Should we? I know that you're at your home. I know that this incredible power of yours has the ability to set off car alarms, to start dogs barking in your vicinity. Is it possible for us to get a demonstration?
Yeah, I can do it. I'm slightly concerned because my wife and daughter are asleep upstairs, but I might set the dogs off next door. But yeah, we'll do it.
I say it's worth trying. Does anybody in the chat agree? Is this worth risking waking up people and dogs?
Right, allow me to just go to the fridge to get some refreshment.
No
I'll be
problem.
straight back.
Indeed.
I'll discuss a little bit about this. We can talk to Craig. You've measured this several times, right?
Yeah, we've had a lot of sound records. So like snoring, we have animal noises, screaming, and what happened over the years is that because we weren't very strict in outlining that distance from the sound meter, we were getting hugely wild variations. And I think there was at some point with the burping record, it got to the stage where it was becoming so loud it would be deafening for the person doing it if it was as loud as they were claiming. So you could rupture your eardrum.
Well, this is the thing. Prolonged acoustic damage to human ears takes place at anything over 90 to 95 dBs. And I mean, they're saying literally that rupture takes place at 120 decibels, which is what Paul was doing, 118, 120.
Yeah, as in right up close. So yeah, so we did have to standardize it. But over the years, yeah, Paul and I have used this record to demonstrate, because it's something we could all try at home. It's a nice, easy try-at-home record. You can even really get sound meters now for your cell phones. They're not very reliable. We wouldn't use them for the record, but you can try yourself at home. My worst day with Paul was spending an entire day in a radio studio about this close to him. And all he did constantly was just burp in my face. So he wasn't allowed to have lunch.
Even though Craig doesn't seem to like the idea of this, we've got a lot of comments coming in of people who are very excited about this. It's coming right down the line here. And we've even got the approval of some dogs that say that it's okay with them. So
there you go.
We'll give you the limelight. Saxon, let's go a close in on Paul and take it away, my friend. So here we've got the very important cola. He's inhaling air. That is
wow.
Phenomenal. Wow.
I think my hair moved.
We got a great comment here. This is a classic, the Barney Gumble burp. So Paul, I mean, like this incredible gift of yours. Can you tell us a little bit about the technique? I mean, clearly this is something you've mastered over the course of the last 20 years. We saw some there with the swallowing of the air, with the drinking of the fizzy pop. Can you tell us a little bit about how that aids in creating that sound?
Well, when I do it, I normally leave a bit of an empty stomach. I make sure I don't eat too much so I can get more air in. And then, obviously, as you saw, I inhale a lot of air as much as I can, wait till it settles at the bottom of the stomach. As I feel it rise, I sort of sit up and open my throat, let it roar, so to speak. And a fizzy drink does help, but not always essential.
And there was a question that came in before we started that said you often use Diet Coke. Is that the case?
Well, I try both, but I find sometimes Diet Coke helps more.
Oh, sorry, I mean Diet Cola. Cola? Do we have?
Cola.
Is there? However that is. But both of them work for you?
Sorry.
Both cola and Diet Cola work for you?
They seem to, yeah. No, both equally well. Yep.
Can I add on that? It was a theory that I had when we were doing your Soda Mentos car record attempt, for the videos for science and stuff, is that I was hearing from cabin crew on planes that Diet Coke or Diet Colas have very low surface tension, which means it tends to form the bubbles more readily, which is why the cabin crews hate pouring diet sodas on planes, because it froths up so much. So I was just wondering if some element of that.
So it's easier to extract the carbon dioxide from the soda quickly.
It comes out more readily, perhaps, yeah.
Well, Paul, I guess the question is to you then. Do you notice it? You don't really notice a difference between the two, do you?
I don't really. In fact, I can even do it from still water.
Well, I mean, I guess we've all got to see that, right? And a great comment came in here, that especially timely with the new film out, that you get the equivalent of a Godzilla roar there with that burp.
I'll take that as a compliment.
You should. It's an interesting thing to note as well, for those who aren't familiar with the concept of the decibel scale, that every time we go through 10 dBs or 10 decibels, that sound has 10 times the energy. So when you're looking at something between 100 and 110, 110 isn't just 10 more, it's 10 times more.
Yeah.
120 is 100 times more than 100. 130 is 1,000 times more than 100. So when we get to these higher decibel levels, the decibel range in the low regime is very spread out. So you get these large differences over quiet sounds versus small differences in the decibel range over loud sounds. And the idea behind that evolutionarily is that, things like being able to hear still water running, or the nuances of communication and language, understanding if something is urgent or someone has a raised voice, all of it, being able to hear predators, being able to hear leaves move and animal footprints, all that stuff's very important for our range of hearing. Whereas if something's just loud, whether it's a rock slide or a volcano or Paul, you just know that to get away from that area, and that's what's happening. And that's why that range is so seemingly as a tight range of decibels there. But when you're beating yourself by 10 decibels, or it's 10 decibels louder than something like a motorcycle, it means that it's literally 10 times that loudness. That's an incredible amount of energy for a human body to release.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I have a question for you, Paul. Have you ever hurt your throat at all? Or do you get like a raspy feeling? Because I know from screaming, or from, we do shows, do you get the same feeling as when you talk really loud, or do you have any damage to your throat or anything?
Yeah, if I do it excessively, I get a really sore throat. Occasionally can see blood. And on top of that, it can also cause problems the other end. You get
understood. Say no more.
Yes.
We have a couple of questions that came in from our social media before this to ask Paul. I want to make sure we get a chance to ask him these questions before the entire neighborhood wakes up there and the police show up.
Well, I can tell you I've woken the other two up. I heard the creaking of floorboards a minute ago. So.
Hopefully you just woke them up and the house isn't collapsing. And if you do have questions for Paul or for Craig, feel free to ask them in the chat. But I've got a question here for you, which was one of those from Courtney. Courtney is a former boss of ours at P&E Playland, where we do our other show, or we used to do our other show every October before all shows in the world stopped. And so she's seen quite a bit of weird and unusual stuff. Her question is, what inspired you to do this? So did you have Was there an inspiration to make this a record? Once you got this record, was it because you've not let this alone? You've pushed yourself to try to be the best you can be at this. What caused that? What was the starting point of that?
I would say it was just a bit of fun, really, at school, and the opportunity came to do it, to beat the record. I thought that was it, so to speak. In 5 minutes came. Had a VHS tape I thought I'd have forever. Who knew how much technology would go from there? And I never thought 21 years down the line I'd still be doing it. Just find it amazing.
That's amazing.
A real honour to be a record holder.
And a great ambassador for us as well. Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Because you've done TV shows all around the world, and
yeah, I've been lucky enough to do that. Yeah.
And it's amazing some of the opportunities from being a record holder. It's just it's unbelievable sometimes. I'm so honored.
Well, we wouldn't have probably been doing our science show for kids in schools or at camps or at festivals if it wasn't for science and stuff. It really opened doorways for. I mean, if I only had
science and stuff,
can somebody hand me a copy of that? Just hand me a copy of that. It's it's just. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, okay. But
it's create a corner piece.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Let's go for that.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Okay. This is bordering ridiculous. Get in the corner, Paul. Get in the corner. There we go. Oh, the other corner. Other corner.
Other corner.
Other one. Good enough. We did it.
Not quite mastered that, have I?
I've got another question coming in for you, Paul, which was, have you ever used this burp to get out of an awkward conversation?
It's more likely to put me in an awkward conversation.
Good enough. Yeah, good point. Exciting. Well, speaking of questions, we've had a few come in for Craig as well with Guinness World Records. This is primarily a science-themed stream. So I have a question that's unrelated to burping, which is you've had the opportunity to present several records to people in outer space. It's a fundamentally mind-blowing thing for me to consider that human life can exist outside of the boundaries of this planet, that we can send people into space. What is that like? I assume it's not as exciting to be on a stream with us, but one can only assume it's very close. Yeah.
I mean, this is the pinnacle.
True. Yeah.
No, I've said. I mean, I've been lucky enough to meet quite a few astronauts now. Like Chris Hadfield, I just thought was just one of the most amazing human beings really I've ever met. Really inspiring person, amazing guy who did the first music video in space. Buzz Aldrin, a couple of years ago, finally got the chance to present to Buzz Aldrin. We had
amazing
and breakfast, and it was fun. And then this week the last couple of weeks I've been in an email correspondence with the International Space Station, some of the crew there, and Soichi Noguchi, who's the JAXA, Japanese Space Agency astronaut, contacted us from the space station to ask if he had broken a record. And I was so excited to think, wow, he's up there thinking about Guinness World Records. And he had actually broken a record that was held by the Russian cosmonaut Sergei Krikalev for the greatest gap between spacewalks in time. That means so 15 years ago he did his last spacewalk, and then in March this year he had another spacewalk, which means it's 15 years and however many 200 days or something. And so we did that thing of presenting the certificate, and I filmed myself presenting it up into the space station. Then he received a digital version, albeit on his iPad. So it's the first time we've been able to present a certificate in space, which is
so cool,
so
mad, like mind-blowing.
And to think that while people are up there in space dealing with everything that must come psychologically with that, with the work that they have to do, with everything involved there, they're still excited about Guinness World Records. Really is just like an incredible, I don't know, it warms my heart to get to be part of this family and to have, you know.
I mean, we were very lucky as well. A couple of years ago, we did a Facebook Live link up with Peggy Whitson as well.
Really?
So we were able to do a chat, a weirdly live chat with her with no delays. I just couldn't work out how that worked either. So yeah, we've been we've had a few records set up on the space station. Samantha Cristoforetti made the first espresso in space because each nation gets to bring along something that's important to them. And as an Italian, she wanted an espresso machine, so they have an espresso machine on the space station. Others brought guitars. You know, the similar-ish to Paul's record. It's not really a record, but there's a banned food list on the space station because of the gases produced. So cabbage, for example,
and it's all wrapped into our other guest as well.
Because you can't open the window on a space station.
Well, you can. You probably just don't want it, right?
But they had I think the cabbage ban has been lifted now because the Koreans insisted on having kimchi in as part of their diet on the space station, so they had to slightly relax what's available in there. So yeah, it's a fascinating. I mean, I would love to set my own record to be the first editor in the space station. So I'm hoping that if anyone's watching with a bit of money, maybe Elon's watching, you know, I'm here.
Likely, yeah, I'm sure.
And you could be the first editor watching two guys do freak show stuff and science in space while juggling water balloons tied to kimchi.
While their friend burps at the same time.
See?
I imagine Paul just propelling through the space station.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Well, and that leads to kind of a fun question, Paul. You've done so many different media appearances from this. Is there any that stand out to you as being unique or were a more interesting take of using your ability to create gas in a different way than the standard just, burp into this microphone?
Well, I did go to Japan once, but I've no idea what was going on.
Was this related to your record, or was this just?
It was, yes. It was a TV show. But I have no idea what was going on. It was crazy.
When you were German, you did a German TV show, didn't you, in the restaurant?
Yes, that was fun. Hidden camera was in the lift as well, and the restaurant.
Okay, that's pretty great. So they just had you as you were just sort of a random guy walking by with a ridiculous belch, and they were.
That's it. Joe Public. In I go. They weren't expecting it. It was hilarious.
That's pretty great. Well, speaking of the, I guess we've done a lot of chatting about Guinness World Records science and I think it's the name of that book. Somebody could hand me one of those. I could check it out.
This one?
I don't know.
You mean this one?
There we are. It's man, if this wasn't backwards reflected in the screen, you would have thought I have picked up on this by now. But Saxon, we've got a series of rocket car fails there that I wanted to. Can you play that clip for us?
Down and then drop the Mentos into the bottle.
So
At which
we
point
spent
you are allowed to let go, and the vehicle will move forward.
half of a day trying to make this thing work. And this was this was the last thing at the end of 3 days of shooting for 14 hours a day of doing this. Do you remember this, Craig, out on the street of London there?
In Coke Street, if you
I was
remember.
going to say on Street or Cola Street. I don't want to get in any trouble. Yeah. But
these are some of the most epic fails, and the anticipation of this was just amazing for nothing.
This clip has since gone on to get 1.5 million views on TikTok, I believe, as a science fail. You have Mentos Mentos and soda mixed together, and we've got fidget spinners as the axles for these wheels, and that it's supposed to create a propulsion enough to run this. And
that was the best we got.
The best one that we did. We were so exhausted. Oh, I have so little white in my beard. We were so exhausted doing this, and it was ridiculous how much this failed. We got to go it a second time, and it just ran straight into the wall. And we're supposed to be showing people that, you know, this could be a record for the furthest distance you could go, hoping very much the furthest distance was more than me.
This is the best.
I really tried to give it a front go, a run. I just tried to give it just a little back, like just a little shove forward, so at least we get the footage of it going more than a foot. Oh, that was so much fun. Now, I do want to show something else with that. Saxon, can you put up the photo of the Mentos and soda from the book with Pepper getting the soda in the face? So, no, the photo. Show the photo first. The one from the book, the actual page. There we go. Perfect. So, as we can see from this photo, we often get asked how you get a picture like this, how this photo turns out, and this was an incredible experience here with our wonderful photographer. If you want to go back to the last photo you showed, Saxon. So we've got this set up here with a timed flash that we basically took the image of me in the foreground first, and then we took the second image later that we were able to piece together. So let's show the slow motion footage. We recorded this ourselves. This is of go back to the beginning there, Saxon, about it. This was the footage of Sweet Pepper. Basically, at one point, you can see him drowning. You can turn the audio on.
All right. Recording.
So you'll see time flashes that come on, and that's when we were getting those. That's when we were grabbing those images, hoping that this would turn out in any way. And he was able to piece together these two focused images. They look phenomenal.
There, I'm drowning.
Yeah, so that's the point at which he's basically being waterboarded with cola. And we can see, but at this point, he's getting his breath back a little bit. But then I noticed that the Mentos is still going off. And so I figure, you know, for science, we should make sure that we get an opportunity to actually to finish it. I don't think Pepper necessarily knew that was coming. But
yeah, now the soda comes out.
Yeah.
That's a good shot on that second one, though.
Fantastic. Thank you, Saxon. We can let that one go. But yeah, so that was one of those fun moments. And I mean, the people are calling for it, Craig, in the comments here. Science and Stuff Volume 2. They're asking for it. When is that going to happen?
Wow. How much have you paid these people?
This is our fan base. I love that book. You know, it personally to me was an honor to be part of it. But not only that, I think it's a great book. It's one of those books that I would have loved to have when I was a kid, because not only is there cool science records and cool science facts, cool science record breakers like Paul in it as well, but you have all these really interesting interviews with people in different fields of science than you would normally think of when you think of, the stuffy scientist behind a desk somewhere. You talk to swarm scientists, you talk to robot designers, you even talk to a collector of dinosaur poop. The book literally has everything in it. And I think it's a phenomenal book.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for being a part of it as well. That's the joy we get in the office, is that I got to live all these childhood fantasies of what my book would be. And this is why I think I mean, I've got the mind of a 14-year-old boy anyway. That's why
you should probably make sure it's in a jar.
Glow in the dark. The second issue, the second volume to Glow in the Dark.
Yes.
Exciting. So that's probably why it's been so long before we've been contacted to do a second one. We've been working on the glow in the dark ink technology. I understand.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense now. We have some responses to Pepper drowning. Which is also a great one. Speaking of which, Saksham, do we have any? I wanted to show this one too. This is a great one where we were doing the marshmallow catapult stuff. But if you haven't gotten a chance to see these are all up on the Guinness World Records web page or their YouTube page. So please go check that out if you get an opportunity to, because I think the combined 4 videos are almost at 1 million views or something like that.
And we are so proud of these.
Yeah, they were such fun videos. This is a record to see how many marshmallows you can get in the mouth with a homemade catapult in 2 minutes, I believe. They're supposed to be at least 2 meters apart. We were so close.
We were like 2 feet.
Hit in the face so many times with marshmallows. It was just good old-fashioned fun. But these videos are also great for the actual science that's involved in them. I gotta say that as a physicist, it's exciting for me that so much care was taken to go through the science that's behind these. These are fun, interesting STEM activities and experiments that families can do at home. But not only that, there's also great science and great physics in this. Great engineering projects for people to learn about. So you did some good job there, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Thank you again for having us be a part of it.
But I've said this before, but you guys completely made this book make sense.
And I know.
That week of photography and video was just still some of the funnest times I've had at Guinness World Records. We just had so much fun.
It was an absolute riot.
But it felt like you were doing something that was actually important. It was a significant thing. It was interesting.
Well, and I think, there's so much to be said for STEM education and reaching young people. And I think it's one of the things that people like Pepper and I and like people like Paul can offer, where you can inspire young people and make them realize that no matter how weird you are, how strange things may seem, no matter what you can do, there's science and there's interest in all of it. And that really, especially with Guinness World Records as a benchmark, people can achieve anything if they just put their minds to it. Whether you want to be, involved in science, whether you want to be involved with your talents, to never really set a limit on what you can do yourself, because you can always keep pushing for more. Yeah. And I think it's a really important thing to spread that message. So we're getting close, I guess, to the end of the time we have together. But I would like to bring in our roving reporter, Mel, off the street here. Mel, are you there?
Hello. I felt a little left out with the whole book situation, so I got my own books.
Fantastic.
That Craig might recognize.
Now,
does anyone have one?
Now, Craig, do you have one of those that you can hand over? Hold on.
Hold on a minute.
Hold on. He'll go for it. Okay, Actions rearranged you for your side-by-side here.
Yeah, okay.
Oh. Wow, he was able to put it on the shelf. That's important.
All right.
That's impressive. Now, Mel, you've been sitting there watching the entire time. Do you have any questions for Craig or Paul?
Yeah, I do. So my partner who's watching this texted me, and he has a question for Paul. So I'm going to read the question out. He wants to know, do you ever get stage fright burping, and how many, quote, decibel breaking burps can you do in a row?
Yeah, I do always get stage fright. There's always the time where it gets stuck.
Yeah.
And I can do the big build up and I go, and it just doesn't come out.
Oh, no. Do you try again when that happens?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen for long.
And how many burps can you do in a row?
In a row, yeah, probably quite a few until I just run out of breath. So, yeah, numerous.
Oh, wow.
And they can get progressively louder.
Oh, interesting. So when you were trying to break the world record, did you do like several in a row?
We were allowed 2 attempts.
Oh.
at the time. Yeah.
Okay. Was it your first attempt or your second attempt that got it?
I think my second.
That's awesome. That's super exciting. Wow. Getting more people on.
Very cool.
Do we get to hear you guys? Mel, do you want to attempt it now?
A burp? You know what? Where's my cola? I don't.
Mr. Cole,
You have it.
I've got a decibel meter here. I can hand it over to you if we need to. Fantastic. And anything? Oh, nice.
That was good.
And any questions for Craig?
Yeah, Craig, I mean, this is a question that I've been thinking this entire time, like hearing you talk about all the different experiences you've had. What is your favorite world record?
Yeah, Craig, what's your favorite world record?
I mean, I would say I've enjoyed every one of the Orbax and Pepper experiences.
Yeah.
That goes without saying. So beyond that, well, I often usually quote the Fingernails record.
Oh.
Because when I read the book as a kid, I was always amazed by Lee Redmond from Utah, and she had roughly, a meter long per finger.
Yeah.
Between 80 and 100 centimeters per finger, and I was able to fly out to London when I got the job. I was like, I wanted to meet all my favorite record holders, so I flew to London, and we hung out, and she showed how she could live her day, and how she could make tea, and how she types. She could use very long pencils for typing.
Oh wow!
And amazingly and tragically, she then had a car crash and lost all the nails in a car crash.
Oh no!
But she saved them, but couldn't stick them back on again. So she was okay, thankfully. But and in fact, just this week, the now the third holder on just had her nails chopped off with a Dremel.
I saw that. Yeah.
Ayanna Williams, she was about 65 centimeters, I think, and she decided enough's enough. She wanted rid of them. So we're actually looking for holders. We now need to find a male and a female, because the male record holder died, sadly, and the female had her nails cut off. So if anyone's watching now with very long nails,
Mel,
usually they're longer and nicer, but it's locked down, so be nice.
Yeah, and I've got little Lego men.
Now you think that you've been looking for some sort of career direction to look at once you finish your undergrad.
Yeah.
Growing your nails to become a new record holder could be it.
You got
I mean, that's why Sridhar Shilal of India, who was very famously had just the left hand was very long and his thumb curled around. If you remember him, he did it because his teacher at school said, "You will never amount to anything. You've got no talent at all." And he was like, "Right, watch this. I'm going to grow my fingernails." And in the end, he became internationally famous and a recognizable, iconic figure, and made lots of money from doing appearances and all this. So he had a good life from just the fact he didn't trim his nails for 30 years. It's a fascinating record because you choose to undergo that. It's not like being the tallest or the shortest where you have no choice.
Yeah.
Someone's elected to have very long fingernails. I find it absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard to do day-to-day things with really long. I would love to watch, as you said, just day-to-day stuff.
I mean, Lee used to demonstrate how she would go to the bathroom, because that was the question she was always asked. How do you go to the bathroom? And she always said, carefully. But when she flew over from Salt Lake City, she couldn't get into the cubicle of the toilet on the plane. And she couldn't lock the door because her nails were so long. So she just had to hold it in the whole flight.
I kind of
tallest man. I mean, my PR team hate when I talk about this one, but the tallest man we flew over from Ankara in Turkey to London, and he couldn't fit in the cubicle either because he was 8'3", and so they would just hold the door open for him, and he would have to stand on the other side of the plane so the cabin crew held up their coats so that no one could see him doing it. And
Wow.
just had to pee across the aisle. Fascinating, really. Yes.
It's
Sorry,
officially
Orbax, I'm very
that
enjoying
is. Now, Paul, I've got a question for you.
Go on.
Has anybody imaged your throat while you're burping? I mean, we must be able to do an MRI or a CT scan or even just ultrasound at this point to try to see what your throat is doing while you're having an eructation.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm very curious about that, if there'd be a way to do that.
Mm.
Mel?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Mel, do you know any way that could be done?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah. I think I need a little more schooling on that one.
I would really like to see this, though. It'd be very interesting, eh?
Well, because you have
Yeah.
always these various forms of medical imaging that have been used to image sword swallowers. It's very common. But it's often because the sword is metal, and so there's an easier way to image it, whether it's an X-ray or whatnot. But we're at a point where you can actually image various parts of the muscles of the throat. You would probably be able to see it happen.
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it? From the inside out. So to
Yeah.
speak.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it just really kind of stands that it's like, I guess it's part of Science and Stuff Volume 2. So we'll really have to just put that as a main page thing to set and sort of display. Well, we're getting close to wrapping up here. I'll let our lovely visitors actually go to sleep. It must be late for them over there. We often do like to close, though, with Mel asking a very specific question, her closer, if you will. This is also a last opportunity for any of our viewers to get a chance to put in and to see if they have any last questions. So, Mel, I'll give you the opportunity to ask your closer, and we'll work through it, and we'll see if any questions come up in the chat at the same time.
So this is like a little adapted version of my question, but I guess what has been your most exciting day of science? And I know Pepper has had a bunch of days that have probably been exciting. Craig as well with the book. And Paul, any science interaction that you've had, even I guess your burps as well, but maybe we'll hear from all of you on that.
I mean,
All I can say is the day I actually broke the record was that's got to be the highlight. Still very proud of that. So yeah, that's the highlight for me.
Yeah, you definitely should be proud. That's awesome.
I think I learned a lot about why one should never release mouse traps on the tongue because of the physics involved are really painful.
Yes.
Pepper came to our office, and there's a great picture, one of my favorite pictures. And I hate getting my picture taken, but I've got me with a mouse trap on the tongue, and Orbax on one side and Pepper on the other. It was, yeah.
That's awesome.
That was a good
We
day.
do try and experiment with the records in the office and try them out before the public try them, but that's one that I'll take Pepper's experience as read. It's not a very nice thing to do.
It's very unpleasant.
Yes,
Very.
unpleasant. Yes.
But for me, it would definitely the Elephant's Toothpaste record was just an incredible. Being part of such a large scale experiment was just it is magical to be part of that and have that all happen. And then probably getting to be on the cover of a science book is honestly something I never thought would happen in my lifetime. And to be such an integral part of this, the make and break section, and to have the experience of going through and filming and taking the thousands of photos together for science experiments is just an incredible thing to be a part of, and I'm so happy and honored that we're actually able to do that. That's not only is that like a science highlight, that's a lifetime highlight being in that book.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
It's just and it's inspiring kids now to go and try the stuff, and they watch our videos and they get excited and do it, and then it launched us doing science shows live for kids. So it's just really snowballed into such a huge thing. It's a life-changing thing, really.
so good at it. You see, that's the thing. You're just so good at it, you guys. That what's it called again?
I don't know.
Guinness. Guinness World Records, Science and Stuff, Volume 1, Volume 2, out soon and glow in the dark.
All right. Well, I guess we've already run over the amount of time that we normally would do. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you very much for anybody who joined us tonight. Hopefully, for those of you at home, it was a little bit of stress relief and a stress breaker. Mel, thank you very much. Everybody stick around here. I'll say goodbye to you after the stream, but I'll kick everybody off for now and I'll close it out.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks for staying up late, everybody.
Real good fun. Yeah,
Thanks for having us. Cheers.
And nice to see you again, Paul. We haven't seen that.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody who joined us here tonight out there in internet land. I know this was a little bit of a departure from our normal streams, but if you enjoyed yourself tonight, it was the least we could do to actually give you a little bit of entertainment and try to take your mind off of everything that's been happening these days. So thank you very much for joining us. We will be doing streams over the course of the summer. So please stay in touch with us via social media. You can check us out on Instagram at Guelph Physics, on Facebook at Guelph Physics, and here on YouTube as Guelph Physics as well. Wait, I should bring back, put Paul back on the screen quickly. Paul, if our viewers want to follow you, where can they find you? Social media?
So my Facebook group, it's simply called The Burper King. You'll find me easy. Please join.
Fantastic.
You're welcome.
We'll put a link for that in the description for the YouTube page. We'll bring back Craig, I guess, and ask him the exact same thing.
Yeah, we're on Twitter at GWR, on YouTube as Guinness World Records. I'm on Twitter as Craig Glenday, so do make me look popular by signing up. And yeah, we're on everything: TikTok, Instagram, yeah, everything. Just Guinness World Records, 2 N's, 2 S's.
And don't forget, the books are available for purchase now. The 2021 is the 2022 going to press next month, I assume.
Yeah, we've got about 3 weeks left to finish the 22 edition. So I'd be up this late anyway. It's fine. So yes, that comes out in September. But for now, yeah, the 21 edition is still available.
Fantastic, thank you. And let's bring Pepper in. Sweet Pepper Klopek, where do people find you?
Sweet Pepper Klopek on Instagram, 2 N's, 2 S's. Yeah, I'm on Instagram there. You can see us, and it's me doing stupid stuff, and also Orbax and Pepper do science stuff on there too. So
fantastic. Thank you very much, buddy. So yeah, that brings us to the conclusion of yet another live stream. Like I mentioned, we will be returning to our normal physics programming over the summer. So please stay in touch and check out our streams that will be coming up. Stay safe out there, everybody. We're still in the middle of a pandemic, so please wash your hands, wear your masks, and remember to show a little kindness to everybody, because it's we're all going through a tough go right now, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm, again, your humble science coordinator, the Great Orbax, and please enjoy the rest of your day. Have a science-tastic day, everybody. Bye.